Hello. Well, I'd already started working on the material that I was going to use for this week's Sideways Talk when I was watching Simon's meditation on Sunday morning, and at some point towards the end he said, "Make me a candle," which woke me up with a bit of a start, because that was more or less exactly what I was thinking of doing, planning to do for the film that I'm making this week. So in one of those sort of amazing God instances that we sometimes get in life, Simon has very, very neatly segued from his film last week to mine this week. I'm going to be using this piece of English ash to turn on the lathe and turn it into a candle holder. So that may go one of several ways. I have no idea at this stage what shape this candle holder will end up being, but in about half an hour's time we'll know. So I'm going to switch the camera around now and show you a few bits of the turning process. So the first stage is to get this lump of wood fastened onto the lathe and begin to get it turning. At this stage we're just trying to get a very rough round shape that we can continue to develop the pattern from there. So now we've got a bit of wood and we've got it into a very sort of rough cylinder. So this is the beginning of the shape that we can start to turn it into. So this is now completely round and this surface is flat. And I think like with a lot of things in life really, you can work against something or you can work with it. And when I'm turning a bit of wood like this, I like to try and kind of achieve a consensus really as to what shape it feels it should be. So at this stage I'm still not really certain how it's going to turn out. I think it's probably going to be a relatively nice evenly shaped kind of cylinder type holder, but who knows. Sometimes you get a nick or a jump or a knot in the wood or something that means you need to work around it and create a slightly different shape. Sometimes the wood just leads you off in a direction and you end up with a pearl shape instead of a round shape or what have you. But either way, the good news is it doesn't need very much from me because the grain, as you can see, is already quite beautiful, even though I haven't really done anything to it yet. So we're now going to turn the piece round. I've got a mitre in the bottom of the piece that locks into this chuck, and that will enable us to then turn the top section of the holder where we'll be putting the candle in a few minutes time. So we're now going to come to the bit where we cut the candle hole in the centre there, and you can just see this scar here. That's called spalting, and that's caused by a disease in the wood. And what happens is the tree reacts to the formation of the disease in its wood, and it sends chemicals to halt the spread of disease. This brown here is a tannin chemical. It's a dark colour, and it basically envelops the diseased area and seals it off. And it's much sought after by woodturners because it can create all manner of really interesting shapes and colours in the wood when you look at it. So there's now just 2 more stages to go. We've got a pretty good finish. It was quite a good bit of wood. I'll give the wood the credit. So it's a reasonably smooth finish achieved with the tools. But we'll go over it with some sandpaper, and then it's waxing it. It'll be waxed with Stroud beeswax, and I think at that point the grain, or you'll see this grain will come out much more visibly, and that bit of spalting there, which I'm quite pleased with, that'll look even more stunning, I think, with the richness of the kind of oil of the wax, really giving more contrast to the colours. So I'm not going to commentate on that bit because I'll need to wear PPE to keep the dust out of my lungs. So final section, you'll just be listening to the machine wearing away. So, having finished the task of making, I've now got the opportunity to enjoy the candle, the light, and to take a moment. So a few reflections that I've prepared as I've been working on what I would say this week. Where I wake, the eastern light appears at the foot of my bed. Blue, pink and orange hues scatter the anxieties of the depths of the night. They're gone, for now at least. Even when the rain clouds cloak the sky in gloom, the dawn always vanquishes the night. When each night seems darker than the last, when we've survived one night only to find ourselves unexpectedly consumed by another, still the sun will rise. A sacred light is handed to the baptized, urging them to shine as a light in the world, shining Christ's light into the darkest corners and forgotten places. The darkness is defied by the light. Nurturing the light is an act of resistance. Find, create, be the light. Light has the purest vocation to make things better. It is such divine simplicity that we need now. Amen.